Welcome to Solar Session. I'm your host, Gilbert, and today we're joined by an expert in commercial solar systems and large scale installations. Today, we'll bring clarity to the complex world of commercial solar and discuss what business owners need to know about financial incentives, construction timelines, and opportunities with solar solutions. All right, let's get down to business. Can you just tell us what your role here is at the company?
Yeah, I am the commercial operations manager. I manage and oversee all commercial projects in all aspects of construction, along with the fab shop, all the way from design, sales to design to engineering through the construction phases and eventually PTO, permission to operate. So that's what I do here, as well as manage my own work myself.
And what does an average day on the job look like for you?
An average day on the job would be on my way to work. I usually call my foreman in the field, confirm everything is going good, touch base with everybody on my way to work. Then once I get to work, it's to the computer. And I usually go through my emails, then start going through my project work. That could be anywhere from permitting to design and engineering on a new project to building out proposals for future hopeful projects that we win. We do a lot of new construction builds, and we do a lot of retrofits. So there's a big market for us. We attack a lot of work out there.
You oversee a lot of moving parts. That is a lot of work to do.
Yeah, it is. I have a good team that helps. Other project managers, I think the good part of any manager is you got to know who you can delegate to and what you can delegate to that person. So I do have some good individuals that I can delegate things to, and it helps.
Helps just keep everything flowing, moving
Yeah,
together.
yeah. Well, you can't do everything yourself. You got to learn that real quick. So
And so, I guess tailing off of that, I like to kind of just dive into that a bit more. But first, let's just look at the benefits that companies would like to know about installing solar. Can you tell our viewers what sort of incentives are available for commercial businesses who go solar?
yes, so through 2026 or 2025, up until the first of 2026, the ITC is still available. Um, Contract has to be signed this year. Material has to be procured by July 4th, and the project has to be built out and operational by January 1st of 27. Um, above the ITC, there's a federal depreciation and a state MACRS. Right now, through the end of this year, we're looking at anywhere from 50 to 65% incentivized for commercial solar. Now, continuing after the first of the year, you are going to lose the ITC, but you'll still have the depreciation and the MACRS from federal and state. So there will still be applicable incentives that make sense. Not to mention trying to lock in a utility rate for the next 20 years or for your NIM agreement, right? If you lock in a utility inflates so much, 6 to 15% a year, and that's going back to about the 80s somewhere. So when you lock in a NIM agreement, you lock in that bill rate, which means that you're excluded from the inflation of electric. It's expected to inflate 14% next year. So when you lock in today on a NIM today, you're locking in a rate that you're going to carry for the next 20 years on your NIM agreement. So it safe harbors you from inflation as well as the incentives, as well as energy resiliency and carports. We live in a very hot place. People like shade on their cars, especially their customers' cars. So you can kind of kill two birds with one stone. You get some ROI out of a structure that's providing shade for your customers. So it serves numerous purposes.
And do those purposes align with kind of how overall a commercial business can operate? Because I imagine right now is the prime time to get started.
Definitely is. Like I said, that ITC is going to be going away before the end of the year here, or right at the end of the year, if contract isn't signed. Residentially, it's gone already. And by the end of the year, there's no contract signed. It's got to be built. Commercially, they did allow a little more time. And not only that, like I said, if you you get solar now, sooner than later, you're avoiding more inflation. 14% a year. That means in 2027, it could be, what, 20%? If you count the inflation, the compounded inflation every year, it really adds up.
What about battery backup specifically? Well, like why should a business consider a battery backup for their operations?
Well, typically large scale businesses, there's SCE has bill rates. In commercial, we see a lot of not only SCE, every utility, all the way from PG&E to SCE to Arizona Water and Power to Salt River Power. We cover 3 states commercially, and they all have bill rates. I'll reference the one that's in our backyard, SCE. It's the one that I know the best. So you have GS1, which doesn't have much of a demand charge. You work up to GS2, which has a pretty hefty demand charge. And then you work up to GS3, where your bill is 50 to 70% demand charges. Now, what the BESS battery can do for you is it is smart, and it knows when to discharge. When you're needing the demand from the utility, it'll discharge. Therefore, your demand rates will be drastically reduced, and that really helps on your bill. Now, we're not going to annihilate a grocery store's bill. It's not going to go away. However, I can save them 50 to 60% a year, which increases that company's CapEx by whatever that 50 to 60% was, different for different companies. Sometimes we actually can do enough to get them down into a lower bill rate, which really does even more for their ROI and their 25-year savings. Pretty phenomenal things. We've seen some customers go 3-year ROI. That means in 3 years with your incentive, your system's paid itself back. So in 3 years, if you pay your system off and it's paid itself back, that means that you have another 20 years to 25 years of free production and just money savings, sheer money savings. It's a really no-brainer.
Yeah.
It's a real no-brainer, especially when I present. Most of the time, these corporations, bigger places have boards. And when I present my proposals to the boards, they're full financials, before and after bills, your 25-year savings, your ROI time frame, along with graphs of your solar production and your energy usage. So we get pretty granular.
And so within this process, if a company came to you now, especially given legislation changes about going solar, what does that initial process look like? How do you start?
Well, we start with the interval data, right? We don't propose off bills like you might see some other companies do. We want the 15-minute interval data from the utility, and that way we can really, our system's going to do what we say it's going to do and perform the way it says it's going to perform, because we know the power that you're using every 15 minutes, every day of the year, all year long. I know exactly when you're using your power to a 15-minute time frame. So we design our systems around that. And that really helps when I can see that they need battery. Oh, okay, you're using this much at this time. And yeah, it's 7 a.m., but in the wintertime, 7 a.m., you're not really producing. And you come in, you fire up all these machines at 7, your demand spikes through the roof. And these are the things that the interval data will show us. So that's the start. Then we move on to a design that makes that system comprehensive to both ROI, offset, and a lot of times architecturally to a place, right? So they don't want to see modules on the roof. The carport, they want it to look nice to go with the flow of their building. And so that's always a discussion that we have with the customer, where the modules are going to go, how we're going to build out the system, try to gather as much input from them as we can. After we build out the system and price it, we give the customer an initial proposal. And then if they want to move forward, we then go out to the site for a site survey. We do a very intense site survey. That way we can encapsulate everything in our blueprints that we are engineering, both electrically and structurally. So after we do that, we confirm that our pricing and our proposal was good. That means that everything that we thought it was, or it wasn't. So the pricing could fluctuate a little bit then. Typically it doesn't. But sometimes it may, if you have some oddball switch gear, weird voltages, things like that. Commercial facilities, they're a little different in the realm of you don't know if it's going to be 480 volt. You don't know if it's going to be 208 volt. You don't know if it's going to be a high leg delta or some oddball voltage. If it was an old building, it could be a high leg or a 208 single phase. So we have to confirm all these things on site.
And can you follow up on that? Because some of our viewers aren't familiar with the verbiage.
Yes, that's your utility service, right? Coming into your building, what your gear is rated at. So if you have a large building, 50,000 square feet and above, you're running machines. Odds are you're probably 480 volt, and then you transform down for your household voltage, which would be your plugs, your lights, your things like that. Large machines don't typically like to run off the lower voltage, and they're less efficient.
So it's a very different kind of approach if, let's say, a commercial business requires that higher voltage because they run large machines, as opposed to another commercial business who runs, lack of a better term, a lot of household appliances or runs office buildings and
Yes,
whatnot.
yes, drastically different approaches, as well as usages, right? The consumption on each, you'll see it right away. Like, this is a manufacturing facility, this is a dental office. Way different. We do projects of the same. Typically, dental offices are the lower of the voltages. Sometimes even single phase, not even a real commercial voltage. They're more of a household voltage. But that's what the site survey helps entail. It helps bring all that to light because, like you said, a lot of the times the customers have no idea what they are. And you can only gather so much data from a bill or interval. It doesn't give you their switch gear or the ratings on it or any of that. So that's why a site survey before we move forward to contract is always mandatory for us. So one thing I don't want is to get into a contract and we're already contracted with the customer at a price, and then we get there and we've never been there before, right? And then we have to change order them or ask for more money from the customer, right? That's what a change order is. That's never good. It's just not the way we like to do business. We like to encapsulate everything up front. Once we go into contract, that's the price moving through.
This episode of Solar Session is brought to you by OptionOneSolar, leaders in commercial solar installations. If you've been waiting to act, now is the time. If you don't start the process soon, you will miss out on huge government incentives that are expiring soon. OptionOneSolar guides businesses through the intricate world of solar energy. We analyze your energy consumption and design a bespoke solar system and highlight available incentives and your potential return on investment. Act now before these savings vanish. Visit OptionOneSolar today and discover how your business can save big while future-proofing operations. And when you are developing these contracts, specifically these designs, what would make the design be a carport versus a fabricated roof?
So carport versus roof mount?
Yeah.
Well, you see, roof mount it depends on the equipment. So a lot of facilities have a lot of AC equipment, a lot of things on their roofs. A lot of them aesthetically don't like solar modules on their roof. A lot of them are just fine with it. So a lot of it is customer preference. Our home base is here in Southern California, and it's hot. So a lot of people want the shade for their customers and themselves. A lot of owners want the shade for their own parking and a charger for their EV or something of that sort. I don't know how many I've probably done 10, 15 dental offices. They put a small carport, a couple chargers, and those are for the employees. And dental offices are big. We always do a battery backup to keep an exam room open. That way, if the power dies when you're in the middle of a surgery or a procedure, you can move over to an exam room that stays active no matter all the way through.
With those battery backups, do you design the system to where it can keep full operations running or just critical loads?
Well, it depends on what they're looking for. Typically, it's just critical loads, right? Servers. Most businesses have servers like us, and you got to keep those servers going, as well as they will keep some lights going throughout the facility. Now, when you're talking about battery and you're talking about a facility trying to keep it powered all the way through, typically generator is going to be the way to keep the full facility back up. That's usually the most cost-effective route. We do battery as well. They get very costly when you're trying to back up elevators and AC units and large loads that you see at some of these facilities. So for smaller facilities like our facility, it's not really a problem. I don't. This one wouldn't be hard to back up. Our office here, if we were a manufacturing facility, it would be very hard, and we would refer to a generator. But batteries are great for limited loads, very limited. Not very, but you want to be 200 or 300 amps operating off of that, unless you're looking to spend a lot more money.
So, going back to the one big beautiful bill, if a company, for example, misses the current year's safe harbor deadline, what alternative options are available?
Well, the thing is that commercially, you're able to, as long as your contract is signed by 2026, and we procure the material before July 4th of 26, you're good. You don't have to worry about that. As long as we can show the invoices where we paid for the material, contract was signed this date, it would have to be before January 1st of 26, so by December 31st you have to sign. All your incentives will still apply as long as your project is built out through the 2026 year. It ends in 27, so you have to have your project fully operational and installed by January 1st of 2027. So other than that, that's the only thing that you really have to worry about. We're not really worried about any safe harbor. Trying to get the stuff here before a certain time. I guess that would be July 4th of 26 would be the only thing you have to worry about, along with signing your contract by the end of this year.
And what would be a practical timeline for a company that signed a contract with us today?
So typically you can expect about a month in engineering and design, a month to 6 weeks in engineer design. You got to remember, we got to do structural calculations. We have to do, no matter if it's roof or carport, there's still structural involved. We have to do electrical calculations, and we have to review it and make sure that we approve of what's getting drawn. And then we go into AHJ permitting. Some AHJs are very picky. They don't have a fast track process for commercial solar. So then you're looking at the AHJ process is typically between 6 weeks and 12 weeks that we will be able to secure your permit. After that, permit secured, we're ready to move. Typically, materials not that hard to get. It will get a little harder in the coming time as everybody's trying to rush to buy material in 2026 before the July 4th. But we have a large stock, and we do have suppliers that have already held on to, a lot of goods for us. So we shouldn't have a problem, depending on the project size, getting to installation within 4 months, 4 to 5 months.
And what advice would you give business owners currently, given all these changes in solar?
Well, I believe that the ROI is still there. It still makes sense to lock in a bill rate no matter what, even if it was just for the inflation. So, you don't have to do 100% offset. Solar isn't commercially. I'm not going to annihilate most people's bills. You're still going to have a bill. However, I'm going to save you so much on that bill, and I'm going to lock you in at a bill rate for the next 20 years. It makes sense to get solar for every company in some way, shape, or form. Now, in commercially, that's where I really want to emphasize the 100% offset, annihilating your bill. It's typically not going to happen. That doesn't mean the ROI is not there. It doesn't mean that the 25 years savings doesn't matter. Anything you can do to lower your operating capex is gold, and I don't see anything against it. Now, the one other thing is operations and maintenance. Other than that, you're gold. And most of our systems, We do have a service division. They monitor all of our systems, and we go out and typically can repair them within 4 to 5 days. So very little downtime. Sometimes we're waiting on RMAs, replacement parts, where the manufacturer has to give us a warranty on it. So that might take a couple weeks, but we do whatever we can to keep all of our systems up and operational year round. So there's really no concerns.
And I would imagine, especially with that RMA, if I'm not mistaken, you guys have a stocked warehouse with parts.
Yeah, we do for a lot. However, commercially, there's a lot of different equipment. There's a massive amount of equipment, much more than residentially. Residential, you can stick with 2 or 3 systems. It works for every house. Commercially, that's not always the case. So sometimes there will be proprietary parts that we don't hold stock in because we don't do much of that. But typically, yes, we do. I hold stock of inverters, modules, and things of the sort to accommodate for those times when we have to do an RMA. We can just do a direct switch out, and we will take the RMA back into stock once we receive it.
Landon, thank you so much for breaking this all down for us.
No problem.
For our listeners, commercial solar is not just a utility decision, it's a business strategy. If you want to maximize savings and avoid missing deadlines under the One Big Beautiful Act, connect with OptionOneSolar today. We'll walk you through incentives, timelines, and integrated solutions built for your property.